Is it filming? You just farted?
We're live.
Yeah.
Welcome to Tavern Talk. I'm Philip Price, and our cameraman just went to take a Dumbo.
I didn't know if you were kidding or we were going to stick with that. I'm looking over here and you're like, I don't know what to say.
Okay, seriously, I'm Philip, and this is CJ Duncan, and he has no idea what he's about to talk about.
No.
CJ, how are you?
I'm good. Phil, how are you? No, I don't know. No one calls me Phil. What am I talking about?
You don't even know your own name?
I don't even know my own name. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Do you want to recut?
Yeah, please. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Tavern Talk. My name is Philip, and joining me this week is my good friend CJ. CJ, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. And this week we saw Dumbo. It is the new live-action adaptation of a Disney's 1941 animated movie. And if you're curious about where we saw it, as always, we are coming to you from the Movie Tavern. If you have a Movie Tavern by Marcus in your area, definitely check it out. It is a very neat, very original experience where you can have top to bottom meal, movie, entertainment, drinks, relaxation, whatever you want. You get the full experience at Movie Tavern by Marcus. That said, we did see Dumbo, and this is Tim Burton's Dumbo, but CJ, initial reaction, what'd you think?
Well, I like to come from a perspective as a father, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a daughter of your own and a little man on the way, and I have two girls.
And they saw it with us.
Yeah. And, for me, it's just seeing the joy on their faces, because it reminds me of the joy that really I should be feeling when I see something as pure and as real as a story such as Dumbo.
Yeah, it was, and I kind of went in not with a lot of expectations. I mean, because did you have like any emotional or nostalgic ties to the original? I didn't really. I remember watching it as a little kid, but I don't remember a lot of the detail about it or a lot of the detail of the story. I just remember him being teased because of his ears, and kind of, overcoming that was really all I took from it. But did you have any connection to it more than that? Or?
I did a lot of thinking about what the film meant from many different perspectives, and so really what I just wanted to do is just come in with an idea, which is kind of what the story was about, was the birth of an idea. And so I think that just coming in with more of an open mind, rather, like you said, not trying so much to have an expectation, but hey, let's see where this takes us. And I thought it took us to a very important place.
Yeah, what do you mean by, it was about the birth of an idea, like specifically? Well,
there's a lot of parallels in the film that I think that are extremely philosophical and even theological in a sense, but I'll just stick with the philosophical. But for example, you have the mother elephant, who to me represents the idea of truth.
Yeah. And
she gives birth to an idea, and you can see the strong bond between the mother, or truth, and the idea, and that it's something that it's inseparable. But then something happens in the middle of the film where the truth and the idea are separated.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's interesting.
But no matter how far they got away from each other, they never lost that bond. Because,
right.
I mean, they're still elephants, obviously, but that just shows you that what is real is real. Like, you cannot change what they actually represent. And so what makes Dumbo, to me, the most interesting of ideas is the fact that he was the most peculiar idea.
Yeah.
He was still an elephant.
Right.
But he was not like any other elephant you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he was a miraculous elephant. He was a special elephant. And so, to me, that representation of the idea is almost like the ultimate idea. One that can capture the imagination of not just children, but can capture the imagination of adults as well.
Yeah, no, man. I don't know if I have anything to say. That's really good. I mean, because, I will say I kind of went in looking for a sense of wonder. Like, I was hoping that it did deliver this sense of wonder, and there are moments like you naturally get some of the classic Tim Burton production design, and like it's a beautiful movie, really. Like he shoots a lot of it in magic hour. This is set just pre-1920s, and surprisingly, a lot of it takes place in the South, and there's just this vibe of I don't know, just of wholesomeness, kind of like you were saying, and it did kind of just it kept a very good tone of this magicality, where it was just like even just the environment that it was taking place in, like you kind of felt this spark of something, and it was just, I mean, beyond being just pretty on a surface level. I mean, what you were saying about the themes of it, and and I was able to actually get like a genuine sense of wonder out of certain scenes. That first time that he goes up and is able to fly in front of a crowd, like it was, it
was emotional, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was, and I was kind of surprised by it. I go into a Tim Burton movie these days with a little bit of trepidation, but I've always liked. A lot of the things he discusses, like there's always kind of an outcast, and again we get that with Dumbo here, but it's and kind of the rich and powerful are always the bad guys or the protagonists, and you kind of get that with Michael Keaton's character here, but beyond those beats, I mean, he certainly takes the Disney movie further, and I liked where it kind of went with the story. It was it wasn't anything we haven't necessarily seen before. These aren't, there aren't ideas here we haven't necessarily explored before, but it's conveyed in such a way that there's some magic to it, I thought, and I rather enjoyed myself. I found it fulfilling in ways that I wasn't sure I would going in.
Well, and all stories are the same. I mean, you have adventure, you have romance, and they're all told similarly if they get the story right. Not every movie gets the story right, but Dumbo certainly fits the archetype where you have a conflict that involves typically maybe like a Cain character, and I don't mean to get like super biblical on this, but
no, throw them out
Cain
there.
And Abel. Everybody is familiar with the story. It doesn't matter what background you're from, but you've got the archetype of of evil, the intent to do harm,
right? And
take whatever it is that idea is that is beautiful and turn it into something that is not,
right?
And it's for what? It's for your own personal gain. It's not for the betterment of mankind, as we see with Dreamland in this corporate scenario. Right. But then you have the embattled hero. So maybe not an Abel character yet, but you see the father in the film who is kind of like the Jacob and Esau story, where Jacob has to go through trials and struggles, and he has to be damaged. He loses his arm. He loses the faith of his children, and maybe not so much the faith of his children, but he loses faith in himself to be a father to his children.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect.
And so what has to happen is he kind of has to go through that cynical nature of himself and maybe rediscover his childlike faith through his children, because it's obvious that it's his children that brings him back to that childlike faith, because otherwise he just wouldn't have been the hero at the end. There's no way he would have overcome scaling the tent. And are we giving away any?
No, okay, I think if you go into Dumbo, you kind of know what you get yourself into. Yeah,
but what a mountain to climb! I mean, how symbolic is it that he scales a tent with one arm, and he sets the idea free with another idea, which we haven't really addressed, which is the lady on the trapeze.
Okay.
Which she would be the marriage of two ideas, right? But what do we see? And I know we're kind of changing course, but what do we see with two ideas is that they don't always work together at first.
Right.
And that was evident in the film.
Right.
Where you had the lady of, and I can't remember what she was called, but
it's Eva Green's character. Yeah, she's kind of she's Michael Keaton, who's this kind of like, I don't know, rich tycoon type that is corporatizing, like you were saying, this Dreamland, this amusement park, and he calls her his queen, but
Queen of Heaven.
Yeah, and immediately, as soon as this opportunity to make more money off of this pure idea, arises, he puts her in there to make it even more appealing and attractive, to spectators. But no, you have this pureness that is Dumbo. And
separated from his mother, which would be the truth that bore him. Mm-hmm. But I think what the Queen of Heaven represents is the idea of heaven, not necessarily. Well, our idea of heaven. And so our idea of heaven would be what is most beautiful is when it's attached to the idea of Dumbo, which is most ideal. It's like this peculiar thing that everybody finds just this supernatural wonderment, and it's like, how in the world is this elephant flying, which is ridiculous, but isn't that what faith is?
I had that same thought when it showed it. Like I was like, I'm literally watching an elephant fly through the sky with a woman on its back, and I'm not laughing out loud. Like I never thought of it as like.
Well, it's very symbolic, I think.
Yeah. I just didn't think it just didn't spark like a little like, oh, that's silly. Like I didn't think that. I just thought, in a way, I was like, oh, that's
and it can be silly.
It can be. But it like the kids. I mean, they loved it. They were staring at the screen like absolutely entranced by it. But it was like, rather than me going, oh, it's fun, but it's silly. I was kind of like, it's kind of beautiful.
No, it is.
And that's why it was kind of like,
there's no
there's something a little more here than just mindless children's entertainment, which is with these live action Disney remakes, live action as much as you can say. I mean, Dumbo's still a fully CG creation, but it was a very credible one. Like it came off very natural, I thought, and I don't know. Finish what you were saying though about the marriage of these two.
So the Queen of Heaven, she is made captive by this Michael Keaton character, which is probably symbolic of corporate greed, and it's just the lie that we're told that everything that is material is heaven, and it's like, well, no, it's not. That is not heaven. Heaven is actually based on joy. Right. And it's like, where do you find most joy is when you're flying on the back of an elephant. Right. But it's not the elephant, but it's that you're attaching yourself to something that is peculiar, and because it's peculiar, not everybody can do it. Take that, to have that much courage. And so I think you see joy created, and I think you see them escape together for that reason. I think they both had to escape together, because if she didn't escape, I don't think the story would have been told correctly.
Yeah, no, and I actually, as the story was happening, because like after about the half-hour mark or so, it kind of takes off from the original and takes the story in a whole different direction, or in its own direction. And so I was curious as to what they would do to extend it to more of a feature length. And but it was because I absolutely liked where, like I said, it's something we haven't necessarily seen before, but it is told in such a way that I really enjoyed the arc of each of the characters and kind of where they landed. What do you think
about the nightmare aspect of the film?
Well, at first I just thought, because a lot of it doesn't look like what you expect a Tim Burton movie to look like.
Yeah.
And at first I was just like, oh, this is him throwing in a little thing so he can put some crooked trees and some scarier elements in there, some weird animals and stuff. But I have a hunch that you took a little something more from.
Well, I think it's just appropriate that in Dreamland. So let's call it what it is. It's the corporate idea that we by ourselves can create something that is perfect. And it's like, well, you can't. And so within Dreamland, you find that little nugget of a nightmare that lacks truth. But you see what happened to Dumbo's mother is that she was imprisoned in the nightmare. So it's kind of symbolic of taking the truth, imprisoning the truth so that others can't see it. Well, so it's like saying that this actually isn't the truth, and it's trying to deceive people to say, that's not the truth, that's a nightmare. You don't want to go and see it. And, they painted her face,
right?
They made her unrecognizable, but yet Dumbo didn't recognize her by her face. He recognized her by the sound of her voice, or the word.
Yeah.
By what she had said or communicated to Dumbo, which to me is very symbolic that, it's the call back to the truth. And then you see just everybody gravitate towards that. It's like, what do you have to gain from setting two elephants free?
Right.
What is there to gain? But you see an army of people who are willing to do whatever it takes to set the truth and set the idea that was born from the truth free. And to me, that's just the most appropriate ending, because then they set them free. They send them on the boat, and let's call it. They send them back, outside of the real world. They send them back to their element. Mm-hmm. But what do these people keep with them? They'll never forget what they did for Dumbo and what they did for Dumbo's mother. They'll have that with them always, if the story would have progressed.
Yeah, no, but they get nothing to show for it,
other than the character that was built to them.
Which really, exactly. Which really, nothing material like this. Yeah, this dreamland has been told to, or has been crafted to tell is what our dream should be. And that's, I mean.
And yet it's so appropriate that they go back, they finish how they began, which was, with just a simple circus. A lot of times, the more simple the idea, the more beautiful it is, the less perverted it is by the corporate idea, which is just profit and just making money. And because let's be real, like, what does Michael Keaton care about one elephant? And then what does Danny DeVito say? He goes, it looks like you got bigger problems on your hands. Right. It's like, you were willing to sacrifice your entire kingdom for one idea, but it shows you just how important that idea was. Right. Yeah. It was worth so much more than Dreamland.
Right. And maybe that's the overall message to take away from this movie in general. Like, it's not, I was going to say, you were just saying it, and now I'm blanking.
That the idea is much greater than the Dreamland, or than all the possessions in the world that you have, is that he had to have it.
Yeah, this didn't have to be
none of that mattered.
This didn't have to be some grand, unique necessarily experience of a movie going experience, but it's just a simple story, and you keep it low key enough, but insert the right amount of truth and pureness and magic, and you get a little something that's a nice reminder in a world that's not always filled with nice reminders.
Well, and certainly it makes me think of myself as a father, and I certainly want to be the hero at the end of the story, and not be someone who just doesn't even believe in myself and therefore can't even be a father to my children.
But no, I think that's kind of, first of all, I think you probably put more thought into this than maybe Tim Burton and the screenwriter did, because you made me like the movie more just by talking about it.
Well, don't get me on Beauty and the Beast.
I don't want to get you on Beauty and the Beast, because I don't even know how you feel about it. I know how I feel about it. We'll talk about that another time. Okay. But I like you were saying, I think simplicity is nice and is key in a lot of things, and can do things favors a lot of the time. And I think that is true here with Dumbo, because it doesn't try to do too much because it needs to be this 2-hour movie. It delivers on what it should and not what it necessarily thinks it has to. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it, but. No. So we do 5-star ratings here on Tavern Talk. So out of 5 stars, what would you give Tim Burton's Dumbo?
Well, there's no such thing as a perfect score in my book.
No.
So I'll give it 4.9.
Okay,
4.9. I mean, you get a little room for improvement.
Yeah.
I may not know what that room for improvement is just yet, but I'll have to think about it.
No, now I'm gonna feel bad. I was gonna go 3.5, but that's because I kind of.
Well, you are the film critic.
Well,
I'm not necessarily a film critic. I'm just a dad that was here watching the movie with us.
No, but you brought a ton of insight and interesting points and things to consider about the themes of the movie that I wouldn't have necessarily considered maybe even like a week down the road. This is supposed to be like initial impression, and a lot of times I kind of don't have the words to describe how exactly I'm feeling about it, and you helped out a lot tonight with that, so thank you for being here, for doing that. Like I said, I'm going to go 3.5. Like, I enjoyed it much more than I expected to. Do I think it's, something that is going to like stay in the cultural zeitgeist or be completely memorable in a decade or something like that? No, not necessarily, but it is. It's entertaining first and foremost. It does have not just good ho-hum lessons for the kids, but a good lesson and good ideas that are conveyed through the actions of these characters. And the characters are really, we didn't talk a whole lot about them, but you really do become invested in them, and not just Dumbo, but the human cast that is around him and the family dynamics that are explored. And you become invested, you care about them. And so there's a lot of good things here. I think it's a gorgeously constructed movie. And so definitely 3.5. It's a high recommend for me as far as seeing it on a big screen. I definitely think you should see it in a theater. But no, anything else that you're considering?
Yeah,
You
you brought up the fact that there's so much we couldn't talk about, but we'd be here all night. Because just the depth of these archetypes, there is no end to the depth. You could try to relate it to any aspect of your life, and I think that's what's powerful about a story that is true for everyone, is that everyone can relate to it in one way or another.
Right.
Like, I can relate to it as a father.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Children can relate to it from the childlike characters who had faith and were the only ones who believed in the idea to begin with.
And Dumbo, like I said, the whole outcast thing. Certainly there are people who are going to relate to that, who are going to,
feel different.
Yeah. No, there's 1,000 different things you could, different interpretations people are going to take from it. But at its core, it really is just a kind of a humbling experience, and it's very enjoyable. Definitely worth seeing. If you're near a movie tavern, definitely check out that experience and see it there. And if you liked our review, think about it. Subscribe to the channel. We have new reviews.
New reviews of the biggest releases every week. So check back with us. Peace.